Board of Appeals meeting. Let's rise for the pledge to the flag, please. Flag's over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow, we have a nice big crowd tonight. I wonder why. Okay, this is November 8th. This is a Woodbury Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'd like to introduce the board members before we begin. On your far right, we have Mr. Joe DiVenuto, Mr. Gary Kestenbaum, Mr. Kevin Abrams, Mr. Andrew Giacomazza. Did I say that right? All righty, I'm getting there. Our attorney, our counselor, I'm Lisa Felicissimo, and I'm Karen Unger, chairperson. Oh, I'm sorry, Jess. Yes, and our recording secretary, Jessica McLennan. Sorry about that. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 13th. Everybody all right with that on the board? Any conflicts? All right, so, okay, thank you. So our next meeting will be on December 13th. Let's see, I'm looking at the agenda, if you have a copy in front of you. If not, there are agendas up on the table there. Executive session, we're not going to have one. Approval and acceptance of previous minutes. Has everyone on the board read the minutes from
Yes.
July? Because that was our last meeting. We had no applications since July. This is the first time we've had an application.
I move we accept them.
I'll second that.
All right, everyone in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. All right, new business, none. Action on decisions, we had no decisions, so there is no action. Public hearings, this is a public hearing tonight for Kumar for an area variance to permit the construction of a new single-family dwelling on a lot having no frontage on a public street pursuant to Section 31012A2 of Village Code and 280A of Town Law. Building lots must have a minimum frontage of 100 feet. Said vacant property is located in the R2A zoning district on Campbell Avenue, a private road, in Highland Mills, and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 216, Block 7, Lots 2, 3, 13, and 14. We received a letter today from the applicant that he's going to have a representative from Lank and Tully to represent him. Is that representative here? Thank you. Would you please introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is John Queenan from Lank & Tully Engineering. We're the engineer for the owner and applicant of the property, Mr. Bobby Kumar. We are before you tonight with an application for a variance, as the chairman had just gone over, for road frontage at the property located, the address is 10 Campbell Avenue. I'll just go through exactly what our proposal is, and then I'll just touch upon the zoning and how we ended up at this point in time. So the property's on Campbell Avenue. It's the second property in from Bakertown Road. So Bakertown Road sits here. This is Campbell Avenue here. This is the corner lot on Bakertown and Campbell. The property is comprised currently of 4 existing tax parcels. Tax parcels 2, 3, 13, and 14. They are approximately each about 10,000 square feet in size currently. And that is pretty much the norm down Campbell Avenue. And I guess over time, the lots have either been consolidated or combined, but I guess originally they were all 10,000 square foot lots between Campbell Avenue and Edison, which is a paper street. Edison doesn't currently exist. So what the proposal is, the applicant would like to combine all 4 lots into one lot, creating just under a 1 acre lot, and construct a single family residential dwelling to be serviced by well and septic, and access from Campbell Avenue through a residential driveway. The applicant applied to the building department, who reviewed the application and indicated that a variance was needed because in the village code, there is a provision that you are required to have 100 feet of road frontage on a public or municipally owned street or highway. So that is why we're before you tonight, is to ask for that request for that variance, because Campbell Avenue is currently a private street, and there's no other means of frontage for these properties, combined or not, to have access to a municipally owned or public thoroughfare. So that is basically the application in a quick summary. The property is located in the R2A zoning district. By combining the lots or consolidating the lots, which would be an action that would occur upon an application to the building department, we would meet all the other bulk table requirements besides lot area in the R2A zone. So front yard setback, side yard setback, lot width, we would meet. We have our 200 feet. It's basically the lot area, which would be pre-existing non-conforming use, although we're making it better by combining the lots, so going from 10,000 square feet to just around 43,000 square feet. So we're going from 4 lots to 1. We're meeting all the other bulk requirements except the road frontage requirement, which is impossible for us to meet because the property has no frontage on any public thoroughfare. So that is why we are before you tonight with our request for a road frontage variance. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got you. All right, there are 4 contiguous lots.
Correct.
What is the process for combining those lots? You going through the building department, you said?
Correct. So if inclined, if this application, proceeds through your board and the variance is granted, then application will be made to the building department. And upon that application, we would have a fully designed site plan, well and septic for the building department's review, just as any other existing single-family lot going for new construction would have. And upon that, prior to the issuance of a building permit, we would have to approach the county, and we
Oh,
do
that's what
a lot consolidation with the county. And they basically just combine it and make it one tax parcel.
When you say county, what part of, are you talking about tax map?
Correct. Real property and tax map.
But that's not an appeal process, that's just this is what we're doing, change
Correct.
the number?
Correct. This is what we're doing. We prove that we own all 4 lots. We then go to real property and say we'd like to consolidate the lots. They then basically take the 4 lots, make them one, and give it one tax map number. And then that gets sent back to the building department that, the action was completed.
So in effect, those interior boundary lines, property lines are erased?
Correct. So there would be a map based similar to this that would just show the property boundaries. And
Gotcha.
these 4 lines would be deleted, and you'd end up with 1 square.
Is there any road maintenance agreement for Campbell Avenue?
There is nothing on the 4 properties deeds that indicate a road maintenance agreement, nor have we found any that has been actively filed with the county. Doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. It may just have never been filed for public records. I don't know whether or not, the existing residences on Campbell have one or not, but to the owner's knowledge, he doesn't know of one.
It might be because it's an undeveloped lot.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, because only that portion, that beginning portion of Campbell Avenue is the one that's improved. When you get down further.
Correct, yes, when you get down, it gets,
it's-
and
right.
usually, to me, what it looks like is, at one point in time, this was probably meant to be a village or a town street, I'm assuming at one point, and it just was never developed to the level of acceptance or for dedication, and it's just been made private at that point. And a lot of times, the older roads don't actually have a specific maintenance agreement that are written in. Now we do it this day and age, but back when these lots were made, it probably wasn't officially done.
How many people are going to live in this house?
It's a large house. It's a
The footprint is
4,300 foot
about
house.
2,600 square feet, and if you include the attached garage, I think it's right around 3,200, somewhere in that range.
And that's year-round residence, it's not seasonal?
Year-round, correct.
How many homes are on that street that use that Campbell Avenue? Both the improved and unimproved sections?
I believe there are 7. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
7. I'm not sure if one's cross street, but I
The
believe there's
neighbors are
7.
telling us
The neighbors
7.
are telling us it's 7.
That's
You
good.
wanna know something? Just let me interject something. I mean, I do a ton of real estate, and whenever we get a house on a private road, we like to see a written, recorded road maintenance agreement. I find it hard to believe that any of the houses on that street that have a mortgage, somebody hasn't requested that there be a road maintenance agreement.
I don't disagree with you. I've run into this in a few instances.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
There's one?
okay.
For the whole
That-
street? For Campbell? Oh.
File, is it, well, we'll get to, is it filed in the county that you can access it, or is it just,
Owners before us, all filed, it's grandfathered into the town, so it was filed.
It's recorded in the county
I
clerk's
believe it
office?
is.
even better?
Actually, that's a good idea, yeah.
Because, I see 3 kitchens.
To be honest with you, I'm not the architect. I don't know what the floor plan is. And
Well-
my applicant,
The whole
he
development
wants me,
up
he
there
hired me to
is-
develop the lot. I don't know what his
the
intentions
whole
are.
development off there works off of a well. I would hate to see 24 people move in this house, and next thing you know, all the neighbors' wells are running dry.
I don't know what the future plans are. I've given a footprint of a single-family house. That's,
And the septic, you wouldn't know where the septic is being set up and,
we have an idea,
Well,
yes.
yeah, there's,
Yes, but we haven't gone that far for the design, because if the variance isn't granted, then there's no,
Now that, well, you wouldn't know then, that above the garage, is that a whole big open room?
I don't know the architecturals of the plan, I'm
Because
sorry.
you don't know that much about the house.
No.
do you know how much of the land they're going to clear? They're going to clear the whole lot, or just going to clear a space for the house and leave a boundary of the trees?
generally-
Because it's a wooded lot.
I would say they're gonna clear more than half. We have to put the driveway in, the house, septic system has to go in, and there'll be a well. So I would say probably 75% would be cleared for that, for those improvements. But-
So the,
The residents are gonna speak.
right, yeah, I
we'll
was just
get
going to
to-
say
we'll
that
get to
when it's time, right. So otherwise, nobody can really, that's all right, nobody can really hear what you're saying.
I do have a quick question on the septic system. Is it just terminology? It says sewage disposal system versus a septic system. They don't have it laid out so that you can see enough of it to get one thing from another. It's just a block, and it's got this label on it.
Yeah, currently, right now, I have just blocked out a general area based on a typical size. And then after we would apply to the building department, then there would be a full design and soil test completed under the review of the building department for that system.
As it said on the thing.
Correct.
So this is just a rudimentary rendering based, and.
It's
till they-
loosely based
till you
on,
come
it's
in
loosely
and
based on
actually-
field observations, grading.
Okay.
Our septic system is gravity, so it's downhill from the proposed house, up, downhill from the well. So there is some loose engineering, but the detailed design, the soil testing, and the actual design of it has not been completed yet.
Well, I have a question for Lisa. If the zoning's R2A, does that require a 2-acre lot?
I spoke to Gary about this, and so did another one of your board members. I was told in no uncertain terms by the building inspector that these lots were divided sometime around 1950, and that they are pre-existing non-conforming lots, and that is how he is treating this application.
So then why are we even here for road frontage if they've already approved it?
Because they're not coming in for an acreage, they're not coming in for, they didn't approve anything, they're not coming in to reduce acreage. They're coming in because your village code and also the town law of the state of New York require that you have frontage on a municipally maintained road, which this is not. And so this section of the village code that they're coming in and appealing has similar language to 280A of the town law, which we've had before, when this board used to be a town ZBA. They're both basically requiring the same thing, road frontage on a road that is improved to the specs of the town and that is maintained by the town. Or, in the alternative, they have the option to come and appeal here, and that's what they're doing. That's the only reason it's here.
Karen,
It's not
excuse me,
here
can
for
I ask-
size, it's not here for acreage, and it's not here for
I know
any
it's not, but-
setback.
I think can I clarify? I think what you're trying to say is that if the lots were pre-existing non-conforming lots, so was the frontage. So why is one grandfathered in and not the other? I think, is that what you're asking?
Basically,
No, you never have the ability to build a house on a road that is not maintained by the
I'm
municipality.
aware of that whole thing. I'm more concerned about the zoning up there is to R2A.
Then adjourn the hearing, put it over, and get clarification from Gary. But I had a talk with him today, as did one of your other board members.
Yeah, I spoke with him also.
And that's what I was told. And this applicant is not seeking any other form of relief for acreage, so it's not
Karen,
even
can I
on the
ask a
table.
question?
Sure, Gary?
Assume for argument's sake, which is not the case, but assume that this were a town maintained, a publicly maintained road, a dedicated publicly maintained road. How much setback or how much frontage do you have now?
200 feet. what is required.
So if it were a municipally
No, it's
maintained road
63.
by virtue of the language, you would meet the setback requirement.
Correct.
The frontage requirement.
If this was a municipally maintained road,
No,
we would
it's-
not
no, no.
have a variance application at all, because the lot would be a pre-existing, non-conforming lot,
Right.
not being made any worse
I just
through
wanted to
development.
confirm that, to
Correct,
understand
according
that.
to Gary.
So
Correct.
my-
That would not even be at this board
But-
if that was a town road.
Right.
My next question to you is, and again, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but
Give me a hard time.
this is a village zoning board, right?
Correct,
Correct.
This is not the town zoning board.
correct.
So the language in the village code, which is the only code I think I have, I don't have town, I wasn't given town code.
Is there a town zoning board?
No,
Right.
we are the
And
village, we are the zoning board.
That's my question from a procedural standpoint. They're not asking for relief for setback, they're asking for relief from language in the town code.
That is
Where the-
also similar to language in our village code, so that's why Gary, I imagine, put both sections of code in the public notice.
All right, I'm gonna tell the board that that's your opinion, I don't see that.
No, it's not, I didn't write the
I'm reading-
notice. Your building inspector did and sent it here, I didn't make the application.
We've had the same discussion with the
You're
building
right, it
inspector.
doesn't say municipal frontage in this section of.
There's
in
no
the
Correct.
village
language,
law.
let me just say
Correct.
this. There's no language that I read in 310-12 that speaks about who owns the
should
road,
maintain,
whether it's
correct.
municipal, not, or otherwise.
I'm not
It ju-
disagreeing
It just
with you.
says a street.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking you from a legal standpoint is, does the village zoning board have the right to grant or even hear or talk about a variance for town law of which we are not the town zoning board? That's
No,
the
but we
question.
fall within the town of Woodbury, and your building inspector seems to think that both apply. And so that's why it's here. The bottom line is that the building inspector's trying to make sure that a house doesn't get built on a road that is not maintained. That's why he's got both sections in here, I imagine. You have to,
And-
I'm
and
not the applicant.
I guess I'm
not the
again, I'm not
applicant.
being a jerk, I'm trying to
You're
get
not being a jerk, but
legal
you're also
interpretation.
asking me why the applicant is here, so we have to have the
No,
applicant in.
it's not, I'm speaking of process, not
Okay.
why, I understand why the applicant is here.
Correct.
But I'm questioning the process of a village zoning board opining and granting a variance based on town law that I don't even have, I haven't even looked at, that I haven't even been given.
Well,
That's my question.
I'm not sure when you got the copy of the application. I guess Gary should have attached the section of the town law. I have copies here if you'd like to see it here. I'll throw it on.
280?
Yeah.
So I guess we have
Karen,
two,
I'm just confused on that,
no, I understand. So
I think
basically,
and we've had this before, by the way. Here's another one.
so basically, we have two options. We can continue based on the application that we have, or we could
If you
hold it
want-
over before, and get clarification
if
before
you
we
want,
continue?
It's up to you.
Is that the,
It's
those
up
the
to you.
options?
It's up to you. If you want to take public comment, you can. If you want clarification from Gary, you can do that. You can put the hearing over. I got a call today
Okay.
from Jay Myro, who's an attorney, who said he was retained today. And he didn't want to adjourn the meeting, but he would come next time if the meeting wasn't, if the issue wasn't resolved.
Correct.
And so,
That
it's up to
almost
you.
sounds
You
like a
have the
threat.
general
That does sound
public
like a
here.
threat.
I
No,
understand why Gary did, I understand why he did.
You know?
But the bottom line is that
well, we can proceed with public comment with, absolutely, and then hold the public hearing over pending further clarification from Gary.
you can do,
We could,
that.
I mean, we can vote on,
The
we,
public
I
is
agree with
here.
that.
Right.
I'd like to hear the public.
But
so,
his
so does the
question-
board agree that we should hear public comment and then
I'd like to
perhaps
hear the
hold,
public, they're
I
here.
agree. I agree.
and then
with that as well.
perhaps hold the hearing over till the
Karen, excuse
next
me,
month? Yes.
I wanted to hear what Lisa had something else to say, I'm sorry.
No,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was gonna tell Karen that she's got the public here. Take their comment.
Right.
If you're not gonna close the hearing, they all have noticed that the hearing's gonna be continued. And we have time to get with Gary to answer your question.
Thank you.
Everyone agree with that? So-
Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah,
All
I'd
right.
like to hear the public too.
All right, so maybe what we'll do now is we'll take public comment.
Could I ask just a
Thank you,
couple-
Mr. Queenan.
You wanna ask?
Madam Chairperson,
Karen?
Karen,
I'm sorry,
could
Joe.
I ask just a couple questions about the kitchen, to the best of your ability to answer? Because
You really didn't have it.
I've never had a butler, so I don't know much about a butler's kitchen. Could you clarify that for me?
I've never had a butler either.
It's It's a storage area,
Yeah,
basically.
I guess it's.
Pantry,
you
yeah.
have a
Yeah,
pantry
it's not a
slash,
kitchen, it's a
you
punch,
know,
yeah.
butler. It's not, I don't think it's a full
There's no-
kitchen.
It's not considered to be, like, it's not gonna have like a microwave oven,
Might be a sink.
refrigerator, et cetera?
Dishes.
Mr.
Yeah, that's the thing,
Queenan,
I
you
can't
don't
tell you
have,
for sure. I don't know.
you are only
tell you.
doing the exterior plot
That's correct.
plans, basically. You have nothing to do with the architectural
That's correct.
rendering of the, all right, so we need to save that for
Will the
possibly
applicant be
the
back
next
next
part of the
time?
public hearing.
Well, if you're going to follow the path I think you're going to follow, I believe we'll be back next month. So
Right.
I could obviously arrange to have the architect here.
That would be good,
great.
yes. Would appreciate it, thank you. I'm not sure. All right, we'll open the floor for public comment. Is there anyone in the first row who would like to speak? And if so, would you just go to the podium, introduce yourself, tell us where you live, and,
My name's Stephen Lopez. I'm on 28 Campbell Avenue. I wasn't quite sure with everything that the gentleman proposed here. I mean, it looks like they're still not on the same page with the town and this frontage. It's still a little confusing here. You say it's a public road or not, it's a paper street, Campbell Avenue. So now you're telling us that in order for them to build, they need this variance from you guys
at this time?
at this time.
Right,
But if it was a public street, they wouldn't need this. They're looking for the variance here.
correct.
All right, there's a lot to process here. And plus, you answered my question about the septic. I wasn't quite sure where were they gonna put all this. You know, we're all concerned. We're all on wells, and we'd like to know what's going on. And, you know, septic, wells, okay, well, all my neighbors are here too. Any questions, guys? You know,
know how many people are gonna be living in the
yeah, well, that's another thing, like you brought up, how many people are gonna be living in this house? You said how many kitchens are in that top floor? Or, we don't know what they're building, we just
No,
saw
there's
plans
two
of a
kitchens.
house.
And if you look at this, you'll see where they're proposed.
I don't have that, so I don't.
It's out on the
There's a
table.
copy of the
Oh, okay.
table.
So anybody else who wants a question there, I wanna look at this thing here.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the first row who would like to make a public comment? Second row, anyone? Third row? Sir?
Oh, I thought we were gonna get a lot more comment.
Hi, Bob Ravel. I live at 14 Campbell Avenue. I live right next door to the property in question. I'm not exactly sure where it is on the map, but I live at 14, right next to the applicant's property. Now, I know for a fact that that property failed the perk test years ago, and Gary Thomasberger was there. Now, I've heard in the meantime, they did another perk test, but Gary, he wasn't present, which he's supposed to be. Now, I can also tell you that anytime we get significant rain, that property floods out, which comes onto my property. So my concerns are, with a 4,000 square foot house, you can put a lot of bathrooms in that house. You can put a lot of people in that house. And my other concern is, if he were to get the variance, he could turn around and sell this property tomorrow to who knows who. And they could put more than 10 people in that house, and that's a lot of people using bathrooms, water, and if the septic system is not up to par, it could fail.
End up on your
The
property.
leach fields could get saturated, and when it rains, that could all come on my property, which we don't need. And it could also flow down the street, which it does if we get a heavy rain. Constantly. So that's a big concern of mine. Like Steve mentioned, we're all on wells. Now, I don't know how far away they plan to dig their well from ours, but with that many people in a house, that puts a severe cramp on my well capacity, my neighbors, and whoever. I just think, you know, I mean, for somebody to build a house, I'm not averse to it if everything, all the regulations are followed. You know, it's just that water and sewage are my main concerns, and the fact that who knows how many people are gonna be in a 4,000 square foot home? I don't think there's a 4,000 square foot home
Where does it say?
within miles. I mean, you could go down Ridge Road, you wouldn't see a house that big, right? Maybe if you went the other way towards KJ, you might. Okay, my other question was, I guess it's grandfathered in. I mean, that, what is it? What's that zoning district over there, 2A?
R2A, yes, 2
It's
acre.
zoned for 2 acres. I just want to know how he's allowed to build on 1 acre.
Because it's considered a pre-existing non-conforming lot,
Is that what it is, because it's grandfathered in? 'Cause
basically, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just a little concerned because he's had this property for 20-plus years, and why he's deciding to look for a variance at this time, it's a little, we don't know, so. And I spoke to Gary, my neighbor and I, we spoke to Gary, and he said they have to do another perk test, and he has to be present for that. And also, they have to do a well drill test to find out, I'm not an engineer or anything like that, but those are the things that concern me. It's just, the effluent coming onto my property is a major concern, and my water being depleted by so many people in that house, that's another concern. I hope you can understand that, So, I guess,
Well, have
that's
you been
pretty
to
much
the,
it.
have you been to the
A little hard
planning
to hear.
board yet?
I'm sorry?
Have you gone to the planning board at all, to their meetings?
No, I haven't, because you know what? We just received this in the mail on Thursday. I didn't have a lot of time to research it. As a matter of fact, I didn't find out, nobody really knew who the actual owner was.
Because the water and sewer is the planning board.
Okay.
So I would just kind of follow their agendas if this ever gets back to them.
Yeah, but
Oh, it
wasn't,
won't?
it was gonna buck right to the building department.
Oh, it's not going to planning board at all?
No,
But I would think to get
Right, no,
a
they just
building
need a building
permit,
permit.
you would have to have sufficient
Gary's gonna do
septic capacity, and you would have to have sufficient,
correct.
right,
water.
but that would be
You need
under
a
the
building
building permit.
Gary's gonna do.
So that would not be with the planning board.
No.
As
That's,
far as I know, no. It's not a
No.
subdivision and it
It-
does not require site plan approval.
Correct.
Just a building permit. If they are successful at this board,
In
they're
order,
gonna apply for a building permit.
You're good, I'm good.
And Gary couldn't give him a building permit now because of this issue. So if this issue happens to get cleared up at this board, they submit a building permit, and Gary either gives it to them or finds another reason not to give it to them. But
Correct.
They build a house, but it'll have many conditions, perk test, well testing, showing deep test results, all those things will have to go for the.
I'm just trying to picture a 4,000 square foot home on Campbell Avenue with,
How
well,
big is your house?
they're
How
showing
big is my
27.
house? I think it's about 2,100
Yeah.
square feet. That's pretty much the same, that's pretty much the norm for every house on the
I
street.
saw your house today, you're right next to the blue house with the white.
With a nice big garage in the back.
Yes, yep. I was blocking the road there today.
So, I mean, there are 4,000 foot homes down it, but going towards KJ, they have, a house like that would be pretty much out of character, but, who am I to say?
If I may just follow up on, after this proceeding with the zoning board of appeals, this application goes to the building inspector, goes to Gary.
Goes to where?
Goes to Gary.
To where?
the
Gary,
building
to the building
inspector.
inspector.
Goes back to the building.
Goes back to the building inspector, and at that point, then the design of the engineering for the septic system and the well, that gets reviewed through Gary's office, who then in turn gets reviewed by the village engineer. So the well and the septic, that all will get reviewed. Perk tests will be completed, deep tests will be completed, there'll be a well pump test in combination with Gary and the village engineer before a permit is granted. And if none of those criteria are met, then he doesn't get a permit.
But I'm just concerned because Campbell Avenue, if you know the road, the first part of it, the first 100 yards, it's kind of sloped. So water does come down. I'm just afraid that if the septic system is not built to spec, it could saturate, it could overflow. I mean, it's happened to other people before, so it's a main concern. It's a health hazard. And if it were to get in my drinking water, it makes it even worse.
Karen,
Hopefully you take these things into
excuse me,
consideration.
do we know, based on record, when this property was acquired, when the current owner took title of it?
We could look it up, but I don't have it at my fingertips now. Yeah, right,
Should be able to tell us that.
yeah.
And like I said, he could turn around and sell it tomorrow. I don't know, that is just, you know,
I have a legal
anything can
question.
happen.
Is it a secret how many people are gonna live there? I mean,
So I hope you
All right.
talk, take it into consideration.
Anyone else in the third row?
The second floor,
Yeah,
it's 2,700 the first floor.
I saw that.
1,500 the second.
Second floor, that's why I said it's 4,300 square feet.
We use a lot of water.
I have a question. My name is Joseph Delarocca, 18 Campbell.
Say it again?
Joseph,
Delarocca from 18 Campbell. Just have a question. What constitutes a single-family house?
right, it's a
48
group of people who live to,
40
no, there's no limit on the number of people, there's no constraints on if they're related. It's a group of people who live together, share common rooms, such as the kitchen, living areas, whatever. They don't have individual, like, little apartments or whatever. And they eat their meals together, whatever. They could be, it could be a group of college kids could be considered a family.
I was on the impression, I could be wrong, that, a multifamily dwelling or other illegal apartments had something to do with kitchens. Like 3 kitchens in one house?
No, this
It's a
is.
giant house, but it's not that big of a house.
All
that you
right,
need 3
this
kitchens.
has a main kitchen. If you look at the plans, it has a Passover kitchen, and it has a butler's pantry. So the second Passover kitchen is allowed because it's not a living unit. It's not segregated into a little apartment. In other words, if you had a mother-daughter, what we call a mother-daughter special permit, and you put a kitchen in, and that person moves out, you have to remove those appliances or whatever. You can't have that second kitchen, but that's a separate living unit. This is all one living unit, so that second kitchen is allowed.
As far as the variance, excuse me, go ahead.
No, so you called it a Passover kitchen?
That's what it's called, yes. It's for high holy days. Yeah, it's on the plan.
Mr. Kumar doesn't celebrate Passover. I don't think.
I don't know, Mr. Kumar.
I mean, is this Kira's Joel encroaching onto Campbell Avenue? This is what we want to know.
Well, I think the
This sounds a
house-
lot like the
the house
house
is-
on Acres and Bakertown, which is a giant house, multifamily, whether it's the same last name or not, but it's many entrances, a huge house. I mean, it had to come, granted it's Monroe, but it's right in the corner of Campbell and Bakertown.
No, I've
It's up
seen
there
that
about a
house.
year now. And that sounds just like the house that's going here now. And as far
Well,
as
we
the
can
va-
only address the variance that's being requested.
Okay, well, the
We
variance,
can't-
my house was built in 93, prior owner. And I know it was confirmed by the building inspector that Campbell Avenue, the road, had to be put down in order for those houses to be built, my house to be built.
Did it have to be improved?
Well, something with the emergency vehicles getting down there, they had to put an 18-foot paved road down.
Okay.
And that's what they
It
had to
wasn't
do.
blacktop at one time.
Yeah, well, it's kind of seamed now.
Yeah.
Well, it's 25 years old.
Seems to.
So, I mean, is there anything in the variance, that
Don't
this house
know.
has to match other houses on the block? I mean, you could pick 3 of these houses on the block and put it into this house.
Unfortunately, if they meet the setbacks in the side yards, rear yards, front yards,
And making 4 lots into 1 lot, does it make a new lot?
Makes
Yes.
one lot.
But does it make a new lot?
no.
Does it?
Well, it makes it a new lot from 4 previous lots.
Yeah, but would that now be not
I know what you're
pre-existing,
asking, I don't know.
It was pre-existing
That's a good
quarter-acre
question.
lots, but now we
Now
have
it's
a
one
brand
new
lot.
acre lot, yeah, yeah.
This is what came to us. And by
Yeah.
the way, I have an answer to Gary, I think. We'll wait till your comments are done.
Is it opposite that lot, there's a 9-acre lot. And at one time, maybe going back years ago, the building inspector pointed out that those were many little lots that they decided not to build on, and they converted to one giant 9-acre lot. And he says, oh, for that, you'd have to have 2 acres per lot. So why wouldn't you have to have 2 acres for this lot?
That I could not answer, you'd have to ask him.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, across the street.
Yeah,
there's
I think
9
we're going to
acres.
need to clarify the,
Gary said you'd have to have 2 acres per lot over there.
on the,
I don't know why Gary said that, I don't know
Yeah.
what the circumstances.
I think we do need to clarify
Maybe because they're combined
this
already.
acreage and lot problem that we seem to be having. Mr. Queenan, you need to say something?
On the lot size, once you consolidate the lots and you created a larger lot, so in the case of the 9-acre lot across the street, once you consolidate, you've lost any pre-existing non-conforming status with regard to size. So if you're able to meet the 2 acres because you have 9 now you have to meet the 2 acres. But if they combined all those lots and they kept all those lots at 1.8 acres, then they would not have to meet the 2. It would be a pre-existing non-conforming use. So in this case, we have 4 lots that are roughly 10,000 square feet in size. So we've decided, based on just public health for well and septic separation, that they need to be combined. Otherwise, you can't fit a properly sized septic and a well on a 10,000 square foot lot anymore. It just doesn't fly.
Is
The
there
other
any-
thing is, you would need variances for every piece in the zone. You would need front yard, side yard, rear yard, if you were to keep those 10,000 square foot lots. So in the case where you have old lots like this that are lying around from subdivisions in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, you look to consolidate them to as much acreage as possible. And the reason why we can't get to the 2 acres is because there's no more land left. Everybody is built around us. So there's no more land left to acquire to make the lot any bigger. So that's why you go with the phrase pre-existing non-conforming, because it's pre-existing, it was never non-conforming, and we're making that, for lack of a better term, better by bringing up the acreage from 10,000 square feet to almost 1 acre.
Is any of that property up there in the wetlands?
There are no wetlands on this parcel.
It's wet. It floods out up there. It's all wet. It's all wet.
It's
On
all
the opposite
wetlands.
side.
The lower front corner.
Being wet and wetlands are two totally different criteria.
Septic is a perk.
Are you done? I didn't want to, okay. Anyone else in the third row have any comments, questions, concerns? Anyone else standing, sitting? No? All right, I think what we need to do,
Madam Chair?
oh,
Madam
okay,
Chair?
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, Maria Hunter, I have a question for the attorney, because this application isn't before the planning board, but in my past 17 and a half years, anyone that changes a lot line and takes lot lines and they conform it into one lot, they have 2 lots, 3 lots, they make it into one, they have to come before they've come before the planning board.
I don't know why,
Because I'm just asking, because
I'm not directing
I'm
the
confused now, as a planning board chairperson, we've had this in the past where anyone has taken 1 or 2 lots and made it into one, you had to go to the planning board, whether they were pre-existing, a subdivision that was done 50 years ago, and then once it's approved by us as a site plan, then the applicant can move forward, and then and only then does it get signed with the county. So I'm a little confused that maybe,
I am
did
too,
did a
but
law
I'm not-
change that I don't know about?
Do
So
not
I'm,
know.
okay.
I think this is why we need to hold this over till we actually clarify
Yeah, we should
the
get
entire
it
issue.
straightened out.
Okay, because I need to be educated.
This is the first time we're hearing anything about the application tonight. And I do not know if Gary advised the applicant that they would have to go to the planning board. There's nothing like that in my paperwork.
No, mine
I'm not
either.
looking to circumnavigate the planning board, to the contrary, but I can't answer the
Trust me,
question
I'm
as
busy
to why
enough, but
Gary-
I'm just asking because I thought maybe something changed that I'm not aware of, and I want to go find out that new law.
We're all gonna go back and ask Gary what happened.
I don't know, I got an envelope I didn't open yet.
Did you speak to Gary at all about this? And did he create a process by which this application would,
The last I left it with Gary is that to appear here, get the frontage, request the frontage variance, and then come back to him, and then proceed
is it
from there.
possible he's gonna then send you to the planning?
It's possible, each
Because the
municipality,
planning board chairman thinks you belong there because.
well, each municipality handles the lot consolidation differently. Some municipalities do require planning board action, others do not.
You
So
know,
we
it
just haven't
seems to
crossed
me
that, we haven't crossed that bridge yet. In most of the municipalities that I work in, they don't look at lot consolidation as an actual subdivision or lot line change or action, as long as you go to the county and you're consolidating, you're keeping the exterior bounds. There are some municipalities that do require a stamp from the planning board to do that. So maybe we just haven't crossed that bridge with Gary yet, because if this application doesn't go anywhere here, then there's no point in continuing it anywhere
The
else.
thing is, if in his mind it was gonna go to the planning board, then we could have done there would have been
That
you would have known
he's,
that by now.
yeah, he's
So
never
I
said,
really
he's
wanna
never said
clarify.
anything about the planning board to my knowledge.
Because typically, sometimes we'll go there first, and then get sent here if that was
Yeah.
the intention, and that doesn't seem to happen. So I'll reach out to Gary. I'm sure you're gonna reach out to Gary. And you, sir, should reach out. Well, okay. Well,
Well,
when
we-
I reach out to Gary, I'm gonna tell him
We'll have to
that
reach out to him.
It was Maria's
Chairman of
fault.
the planning board has spoken, but you should reach out to
Karen,
him
that's
also.
that's a great question that Lisa brings up, because if you're asked to, if the ZBA is being asked for its determination, but the determination may be based on consolidation that hasn't happened yet.
Well, that was
and
my
may or may
first
not
question with
happen.
that it would go through the building department and then finally through the county as a tax parcel.
If
Correct.
what Maria is saying is accurate, then it should have perhaps gone to the planning board first to get their feel for it, which would have then sent.
And then they would have referred it to the
referral.
zoning board.
We would have done a joint seeker, even if it was gonna be nothing, because
I
they
s-
can't do that
Well-
without granting variance here first.
Correct, but at the same time, if we don't get the variance, then going to the planning board is,
That's true. It's
It's
a moot point.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you get the variance and.
I mean, the whole, everything else after this application, the soil tests, maybe they don't work. Maybe we can't get a septic,
Maybe
you
the
know?
answer is you have to go to the
it's-
planning board. We'll find out from Gary. Yeah,
It would have been nice to known
correct.
that, but, okay.
So do I have a consensus among the board that we're going to hold this public hearing over till next month?
Well, if there's
And-
no one else that wants to speak,
No one else wanted, there was no one else, right?
I'd like to make a motion, we
Wait a
carry
minute,
this
we
over.
have someone, yes, sir? No, if you're going to speak, sir, you need to come to the podium.
Was it your kids that did the,
It's not for me, it's for the public.
was it your guys that did the perk test? Yes. Down here, on the lower end of the property, down on the lower end of the property is where they have the sewage disposal. And this is where we're saying it gets wet, well, maybe not wet, but it's wet all the time. But, you know, I spoke to your kids, and they did the perk test up here in the top, on top of the hill.
They did actually 6 perks across
Did they do any down with it, down here? Because I didn't see them down here. But they didn't walk through mud there?
They probably did, but they did the perks. But again, those perks have to be recreated with whoever in the village will review that.
Did it pass the perk test down before?
Yes. No, you know, I take offense to that because we do the tests, we're not lying about the tests, and I know everybody here thinks that we do lie and, you know, we try to fit things in, but those are legitimate tests. You know, I have a license from the state. Our company's been around for a long time. I don't fudge test results. If it works, it works, because if it doesn't work, I get a phone call from you and the village and the homeowner, and
All I'm saying is,
what I'm saying is, this is all taken into account. You know, I don't like the fact that, I don't like the fact that you're insinuating
sir,
that I make
sir.
tests up.
gentlemen,
Sir.
according to the building inspector, it's
No.
gotta be done in front of him, plain and simple.
And it will.
That's it.
We do tests
He
before
wasn't
we go to
present
the.
for it. He wasn't present.
Sir, you need to go to the
Exactly.
podium if
We
you
do,
want to speak.
exactly. We do tests for our own knowledge before we go to the building inspector, so that we know that the design will work.
Until it's done,
Excuse me, you can't.
Hey, guys,
Stop.
address the board, you don't address each other, all
You
right?
can't take minutes when you guys are bickering like that.
I
One at a
apologize,
time.
but we do our own tests to make sure that the system works, and then we approach the village, and we do another round of tests, so that we know it works. We don't like to go to Mr. Thomasberger not knowing if it's gonna pass or fail. That's,
All right. So I,
Yes, because it has failed.
The-
That's why we asked.
all right, we're not even at that point yet. Right now, we have to clarify the lots. We need to clarify quite a few things. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hold this public hearing over. We're not going to close it tonight. And, Mr. Queenan, can I request, you said you could request the architect to come
yes.
to the meeting? And can you get a copy of that maintenance agreement for the road?
Yes, I'll actually ask if, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
And we will talk to Mr. Thomasberger, see what clarification we can get. And of course, the public is definitely welcome to come back and add
December 13th.
whatever comments. We're December 13th.
I invited him tonight. I'm the only one here.
Yeah.
All right, so do I have a motion to carry?
I'll
the-
make a motion, we carry it over to December 13th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Joe? How do you
I
vote?
vote aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carried. So we will carry this public hearing over till December 13th, at which time we hopefully will have some at least more clarification than we have this evening.
So this is the zoning board?
This is the zoning board. The zoning board,
is what is in question now.
No,
N-
only-
no.
Somebody questioned whether or not this application.
Yeah, this is,
also
this,
need a-
right, this is the,
plan.
right, this is the zoning board. We have just one variance before us, but we need clarification, so that will be held over until December 13th. All right? We have we do not have a building inspector's report.
Nope.
And we have no deliberations.
I make a motion for adjournment.
Seconded?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, our zoning board meeting is concluded. Thank you very much for coming.
You know what the answer he's gonna give
I
us?
really enjoyed the process.
Let me show you.